Good, good morning, church. How are you? Good to see you. You're still okay. You said okay in first service. You're just okay. Okay, all right. We're gonna work on that by the end of the service. So good to see so many smiling faces in the hall, in the parking lot, in this room, and about. And speaking of smiling faces, I'll share with you a bucket list item that was crossed off that I thought was never, ever going to happen. Some of you may know and may have even participated over the years. When my daughter Daisy was about 2 or 3 years old, we'd take pictures, and she would have this surprise face she would always take pictures with. She thought it was funny just to go, whenever we take a picture. And it kind of morphed into what our family calls the Skidmore happy face. Now, some of you have had the distinct honor of being in a picture in which you've gotten to make our Skidmore happy face with us. 2 hands just like this, smiling like this. Because it's so boring to stand and take regular pictures, right? And so we always try to make it exciting. And so over the years, I started getting other people to do that with me. Some of you, many of you in the room, have had the privilege of rolling your eyes and then doing the face with us. And then it began to reach out to other people, and some famous people, and some maybe not so famous people, and some really famous people, and some important people. And there was always a bucket list, and somebody said, who's at the top of your list? I said, there's one person at the top of my list. They said, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. I said, it's going to happen. One day it will happen. And about 2 weeks ago, it happened. We got it. I'll give you the number one on my bucket list, happy face. Okay, fine. I don't care what you think about a team, but you respect somebody's life and their efforts. Anyway, accomplishments. But people said, you'll never get Coach Saban to do it ever. And so I got a chance to meet him. He said exactly 6 words to me. You'll hear those 6 words. I got in line, I got up to meet him, and I thought, I got one chance to make this right, and people said, it's not going to happen. People texted me that day, it's not going to happen. I said, I'm going to meet him. It's not going to happen. He won't do it. He'll do it. And I said, Coach, I had pictures of me doing the happy face with Charles Barkley and Pete Rose, Governor Bill Lee, Dale Murphy, I said, here are the pictures. I'm going to ask you to do this, Coach, and I'm trying to stumble over my words, and he the entire time stood and looked at me like this. Up and down, he scanned my whole body, and I just thought, this isn't working. Come on, you got to convince him. So I said, so Coach, it's just 2 hands like this, and you smile. It's going to be real easy. I said, Coach, my grandkids do this picture with me, and whenever we do this, we pose like this, and everybody says you're not going to do it. Coach, today's your chance to prove them wrong. And then I said, grandfather to grandfather. And he smiled, and he said, the first are 3 words. Let's do it. So I posed for the picture thing, and don't blink, don't ruin this picture. They're going to take it one time. You got one shot. I look over out of my peripheral vision. I notice he's not smiling. And I said, I literally did, bump him with my arm, and I said, come on, Coach, smile. Look like you're having fun. Even if you're not, you can pretend. To which I got, I had no idea until like 2 weeks later when the picture came that he actually smiled. And he did smile. That's not AI. People say, I don't believe that's a real picture. It's real. There were witnesses. And then I said to him, here's his last 3 words. I said, Coach, this has been a tremendous honor. To which he said, well, all right then. And I'm out. It's been an honor. So there you go. Now, so I've been excited about this, but I tell you, I got to see a lot of smiling faces just a few nights ago at Sing. Sean, the praise team, our friends and brothers and sisters from our West Campus, our brothers and sisters from Highway 231, all came together for an incredible night at the Riverdale Auditorium, which was a good thing we were inside because it rained that night. It was a great night. Sean, you and everybody from the tech guys, people running cameras and sound and put up cables and speakers who practiced and who showed up. We should celebrate. That was a great night. Thank you, Sean. It was a lot of fun. One of my favorite moments was the young kid up front. The countdown timer was letting us know it was about to start, and the kid turned to his mom. I didn't know the kid or the parent, and said, who is this lady we're after? And I was intrigued by the conversation. She says, what? He goes, who is it we're trying to capture? And she's like, what? And he pointed to the sign that was right up there on the stage that said, to get her. And he was like, who is she? Where is she? When I see her, what am I supposed to do? So all night long, and every time Sean said, it's so good to be together, I laughed the whole night long. It was great. What a great night. So we're going to do a little bit of math like we did last time, because I don't know that I made my point exactly clear. In 1 year, you've got this many minutes, church. If you got it, say got it. So now if we have one sermon is divided into all of those minutes, and you multiply that by 100 to get the percentage, we're looking at, I've got 0.007% of your year right now we're going to try to occupy. But you say, wait a minute, that's waking minutes. I mean, that's sleeping minutes. So if you figure out if you sleep 7 hours a night, I'm not sure who's doing that, but if you sleep 7 hours a night, that's that many minutes you're going to spend sleeping. So we're going to figure out how many hours, rather. That's how many minutes you're going to spend sleeping. So now let's take that out of the minutes that you are awake. Now, I do understand that I've got to keep you awake for these so that those minutes don't get confused. But if we stay awake here, that's how many waking minutes you have. If you got it, say got it. So that means that if you divide a sermon into that, now I'm going to be spending with you let's multiply that by 100, 0.01% of your year that I have right here. So if you're ready, say I'm ready. All right, now keep in mind that this is how many minutes you're going to listen to sermons if you listen to them for 52, if you're here every Sunday. You're going to spend that many minutes listening to somebody talk about Jesus. If you got it, say got it. And I know that we're all concerned, who is that person going to be and when and how, and okay, fine, but at least realize that you have this many waking minutes this year to talk about Jesus. So that was my point last time. Let's just realize that you have way more opportunities to talk about Jesus than you do to have somebody stand up here and listen to Jesus. So we are all in this together. I got it. We're all in this together. So I want to make sure that we are all together going into this. Okay, now if you're ready, say I'm ready. This was on the stage 2 weeks ago. John Magnuson preached. One of the guys in my D group texted in a thread and they said, well, when I saw this, I just was certain that Skid was preaching that Sunday. And then Finn Courtney, right up here on the front row, Finn texted back and said, I thought we were celebrating his birthday. That's good. To which somebody else texted me independently and said, we all chipped in and we're going to get you one of these, Skid. If you're a Star Wars fan, you can appreciate this. If not, it's really not funny either way. But I just finally muted the text thread and said, I've had enough for tonight. I'll go on. But that number was important. That number was 1,000 people we want to have Bible studies from John 3:16. The cards are still out there. 1,000 people we want to have conversations, and maybe a lot more. So they ordered these numbers, but they also ordered an extra zero. And I was looking at them in the hall, and I thought, why do we order an extra zero? And they said, we need it. We need it because we're going to use these numbers twice. One for the 1,000, and then we want to celebrate that over the last several years, North Boulevard has helped to participate in the planting of 10,000 churches globally. We should also celebrate that, church. Now, then I saw a 1 in the hall, and I was like, what's this? Shouldn't it be out there? They're like, no, it just stays in here for right now. I said, we accidentally ordered an extra 1. And they said, yes, we had to, because from the time that we counted and placed the order, we did our math, added it up again, church. And so now North Boulevard has participated in the planting of 11,019 churches. That number's right out there. There's cake for you to celebrate. We should celebrate that. For a church that is looking for things to celebrate, this is a big one because it means 11,000 origin stories where people all over the world are hearing the story for the very first time. And they're saying, I'm a part of this story. Church, every time I've had a chance to speak during this series, I've reminded you that origin stories, they tell us who the main character is in a comic book or a movie. They tell us what went wrong. They tell us what is at stake. Origin stories tell us why everything that follows is important. Origin stories, they shape us. They tell us how we came to be, where we've been and where we're going. They inspire us. They give us purpose. They give us direction. And then they give us community and they invite us. They invite us into a bigger story or to join a greater mission. That's what origin stories do. And so we started at the very beginning of Genesis looking at the origins of the universe and of the earth. The origin of man and of marriage, of sin and of death. The origin of sacrifice, of civilization, of language, of government, and of nations. And today, we look at the origin of Israel. The origin story of Israel. His name's not Israel yet. We know him as Jacob, and we're looking at Jacob's first steps into a bigger story. You remember Jacob from last week, Jacob the deceiver, Jacob the scoundrel, Jacob the conniving weasel who steals his brother's birthright and then lies and steals his brother's blessing. And this is the man that God chooses to be called into the origin story. Well, the world's thinking about this. 2 nights ago on Jeopardy, there was this question, one of the categories in the Bible category that hardly anybody ever gets answers right in. And here's our guy. The world is still talking about, so much so that he's worth some money on a game show if you know the part of his story. We're not going to get to this part of the story, but we're going to be in Genesis 28. If you got a Bible, I'd invite you to either open it up, flip there, swipe there, click there, whatever you do. Genesis chapter 28. And do me a favor, when you get to Genesis 28 on your device or Bible, just say, I got it. That lets me know that I'm not the only one with an open word, that you have open hearts and you are ready to go. Genesis chapter 28. I'm going to call this, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. I recognize it's poor grammar. Give me some grace. You ain't seen nothing yet. More on why we call it that momentarily. Now, I know it's a lot of words, and we're not going to look at every single line by line. We're going to skip over some key sections. There's a lot of text on the screen, but the story is important. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Wait a minute. I thought we already saw that. Well, we saw one that wasn't really meant to be. Jacob was posing as his brother and steals the blessing. And at some point, Isaac begins to realize, okay, then it may be that Jacob is the one that God has picked. And so I need to give him this blessing. So he calls him in. And he commanded him, don't go marry a Canaanite woman. Go to Padan Aram, to the house of your mother's father. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban. And then look at verse 3. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May He give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham. Big words in Scripture. This is the first time that it comes to Jacob. It was given to Adam, go and multiply, be fruitful. It was given to Abraham. It was passed on to Isaac. And I think we have this impression that in the Old Testament, everybody just had regular conversations with God, and it's now just Jacob's turn. No, Jacob heard the stories. He knew about Abraham. He'd heard the stories from his grandfather. Their lives overlapped a little bit. He knew the stories from his dad, but this is his dad giving him this blessing. He's not heard it from God yet, but it's being passed down to him. This is the blessing. Then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram, the brother of Rebekah, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. So here he goes. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and had sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there. And that when he blessed him, he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and had gone to Padan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father, so he went to Ishmael and married Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth and daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. Take that, Dad. And then he tells his mom, Mom, when Dad dies, you better dig 2 graves because I'm coming after your son. Out of respect for you, I'll wait till Dad dies. But when Dad goes, both of them are going to be dead. Now, I've got a brother. My brother's 7 years younger than me. Some of you met him. He's preached with me before and helped. He's taught class. He's done other things here. Worked here for a time. I love my brother dearly. And other than brotherly spats that we had growing up, I mean, we got along pretty well, and we still do. I love him deeply. In fact, I was at Walmart recently, and I found a little Fisher-Price little person that looked just like my brother. And I bought it to give to Mary May, my granddaughter. Did I tell you my grandfather? And I bought it for her, and I said, this is so Uncle Paul can come and visit all your friends in your dollhouse. And she said, I want you, Pop. So I said, okay, went back to Walmart, and I brought her this. And I said, there you go. Now you can play with both of us there. And she was saying, look, everybody, I got Uncle Paul and Biz Lightyear. And so there we go. My brother and I can't imagine a scenario where my brother is chasing me down to try to kill me, or even to where he's expressing hatred for me. But Jacob realizes, I've got to leave. So Jacob left Beersheba and he set out for Haran, a journey that's going to take him 550 miles. But then it says, when he reached a certain place. Church, I want you to remember these 3 words, and let's say them together. When he reached, I want you to remember those words. He stopped for the night. The place he goes is about 60 miles away. He must have started early in the morning. He covers a lot of ground and he gets there. He goes to this certain place, and it says he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and he lay down to sleep. Even as a kid, I remember thinking, "Oh, wow, that's terrible. I mean, that's bad." I wanted to have a stone for this service, so I called our maintenance guys. I called Elijah Reitz and Andy Hutchins, and I said, "Guys, I have a strange request. I need a stone that looks like a pillow." And they, "Okay, we're on it." And then Andy calls. He finds one out by Chick-fil-A that's dug up. He calls manager of Parks and Rec, and he says, "There's this rock there. Can we borrow it?" "What do you need it for?" "Well, it's a long story." "What do you need it for?" "Well, our preacher needs it for a sermon illustration." "Okay, whatever. If you can come get it, fine." So they come yesterday, pick it up, and haul it here. And I was thankful until I tried to move it this morning and realized I was not thankful enough. These two guys, for the purpose of a visual, did an act of service that I'm not ever going to forget. And they're probably going to leave it up to me to get it off of this stage. But he goes and he puts the stone down and he puts his head on it. Now, I brought my pillow. This is my pillow. This is the pillow with my 1977 Star Wars pillowcase. It's very comfy. I carry it on trips with us. I don't use this pillowcase a lot at home, but on trips, I want to distinguish my pillow from everybody else's. And so I'll carry it on the plane on mission trips. And after the teens tell the flight attendant that it's my birthday and that I'm 75 or whatever, the flight attendant will occasionally say, "Where's the guy with the awesome pillow? It's his birthday today." And by now, in dog years, I'm probably 120 of as many birthdays as I've had on mission trips. But pilots have even stopped and said, "Oh, that's a cool pillow." My girls roll their eyes because they're like, "How long is it going to take for somebody to say something about Dad's pillow?" And he's going to say, "See, girls, I actually am kind of cool." Maybe to the wrong people, but this is my pillow. I don't like to go on a trip without my pillow. When you travel, you probably take yours. But Jacob finds himself in the middle of the night, in a dark place, in the middle of the desert, with a stone for a pillow, stranded in a... Thank you. And he put it under his head and he lay down to sleep. He had a dream. So I found this website, which is Rock Pillows, that actually sell pillows that look like rocks so your kids can actually sleep among the rocks. Don't be mistaken, this wasn't comfortable. He's laying down, but people commonly in antiquity would actually rest their head on rocks. It wasn't that strange for them, but for us it sounds terrible. And then he has a dream. Now let's pause for a second. Why would God speak to him in a dream? God speaks in other ways. Maybe, like us, we're too busy in life, and the only way God can get our attention is to speak to us in a dream. I believe in my life I've had at least 3 or 4 over the course of my 55 years, some dreams that I think came directly from the Lord. Nobody can convince me otherwise. I'll tell you those stories some other time. I also believe I've had some dreams because I ate burritos too late at night, or maybe had too much caffeine. So I never know exactly is a dream coming from God or not. It was very clear to Jacob that this dream was coming from the Lord. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth. Now make sure you understand that that stairway came and it touched the earth. If you got it, say got it. With its top reaching to, say it church, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. This is what he sees. Now, over the course of history, artists have tried to depict what this might look like. All of them picture a guy with a rock for a pillow. But then some of them feature a ladder, where we get our phrase Jacob's ladder, with angels ascending and descending. Some of them are a little bit more minimalistic or artistic. Some of them look like a staircase, but all of them look similar. And he sees these angels ascending and descending on this staircase, almost as if they're changing shifts. Like, we're done with our job, we're going to go back, and now somebody else is coming. As if God wants to say to Jacob, I know that I don't look like I'm here because you're in a dark place in the desert with a stone for a pillow, stranded in a certain place. But I need you to know, Jacob, that I'm very present, and I'm here, and I'm engaged, and I'm active. And this stairway goes all the way down and touches the earth. What's he supposed to think? If this is like the dream that he saw, when Jacob sees this image, he's going to know immediately the point that God is making. He's going to go back to the last time I preached, ironically, in Genesis, and he's going to picture a giant staircase of a ziggurat, or of what we would have called the Tower of Babel, that probably looked more like a ziggurat, with a staircase that goes up, and this is where God was supposed to dwell up at the top. Church, let me ask you, did the Tower of Babel go all the way to heaven? No. In fact, God had to come down to check on the work they were doing. So he lets Jacob know this staircase comes all the way down and it touches the earth. So if Jacob had this dream today, he would probably, I'm not trying to make light of it, I just want to let you know that he gave Jacob an image that he would have understood. It wasn't just a staircase. He said, you remember when people tried to build a tower to get to me? And they could only get so far. I've come all the way down to you. Jacob, I am here. If he gave the dream today, he would have pictured probably a giant escalator. An escalator like this one, which is the Wheaton Station metro station in Maryland, right outside of D.C. The longest, actually the second longest escalator in the world, the longest single span escalator in the Western Hemisphere. This escalator is 230 feet long. It's the vertical rise of 115 feet, a 30-degree incline, 90 feet per minute you can go. It'll take you 2 minutes and 45 seconds to ride this ride. Reminds me of our daughter. Back when we were, had a little less discretionary funds, our daughter needed some fun. We take her to the mall to ride the magic stairs. We're going to go ride the magic stairs, and Daisy thought we were at Disney World. We'd ride those stairs up, and we'd ride them back down, and she'd be like, oh, this is amazing. What'd you do today? We rode the magic stairs. And so this is the image that Jacob would have imagined. And so remember, I showed you this when we did this, the one on the Tower of Babel. The Lord came down. See, religion builds a tower because it is essentially man doing all the work trying to reach God. Religion says you have to do this, this, and this in order to reach God. But the gospel of Christianity is a bridge that God comes down and says he's trying to reach man. If you got it, say got it. And he says, I want you to know, Jacob, that this stairway comes all the way down. And there above it stood the Lord. And he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. I've got to pause for just a minute. I don't mean for this to be a dad joke, and it's in English. It's an English translation, so it wasn't God's point. But I find it funny that he goes to the deceiver and says to him, I'm going to give you the land on which you are lying. He says, Jacob, you've done nothing but lie and swindle and deceive, and yet I still am interested in you. And I'm going to use you, but I'm going to give you the land in which you have been lying and the land on which you are now lying in the dark, in the desert, with a stone for a pillow, stranded in, and I'm going to give you and your descendants this land. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you'll spread out to the west and the east, the north, the south. All peoples of the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Church, I get emotional when I read these words because that was the promise that he made to Abraham. It was the promise he made to Isaac. It's the promise he now makes to Jacob for the first time. It's the promise that he makes to you, it's the promise he makes to me, and it's the promise he makes to North Boulevard. Amen. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Paul would echo this when he says, in all my prayers, I pray with joy. Remember that word. Because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this. Before I read any more, church, I'm just going to be honest with you and let you know that there are lots of things that rattle my confidence that God is still active and engaged and doing the things he said he would do. I don't feel bad confessing that, but there are times that I struggle. And Paul says, I am confident that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ. There's a work he has for North Boulevard. It's not done. And so he promises, I'm going to be with you until the day that is completed when Christ Jesus comes. Let's go back to our text, Genesis 28. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place. And I was not aware of it. Because when I went to sleep, it was dark and it was dry and it was scary and I had a rock for a pillow and I thought that I was just in a certain place. But he wakes up and he says, surely God is here. I talked about the Sing event last year. Sean, it'll always be one of the highlight moments of my life last year. The worship was awesome, but I told you the story of my granddaughter seeing a firefly for the first time. And I harnessed one and I captured it, and she thought that I had the power of the universe to capture this creature. And I showed it to her and she'd never seen one. And church, throughout the whole year as she's gotten older and as a new grandchild has come into the picture. And I'm seeing things that I used to see all the time and love, but have forgotten to enjoy. I made a list of a few of them. My granddaughter and my grandson have taught me how to appreciate some things that I had forgotten how incredible they were. Snowflakes, bubbles, hopscotch, cardboard boxes, chalk, rocks, butterflies, sprinkles on cupcakes, even if you call them frinkles, puddles, piles of leaves, merry-go-rounds, fireworks, twirling, clouds, spider webs. And I'll never forget taking her to the zoo the first time she saw an ostrich. And her face looked like, I have no idea how to process what this creature is that I'm looking at. I'd stopped being amazed by ostriches a long time ago. But she reminded me, wow, Pop, look at that. Jacob does this. Surely the Lord was in this place and I was not aware of it. Church, my guess is that's happened to some of us. We show up every Sunday here to make a long distance phone call because we have enough Wi-Fi or we get a good signal here. For some reason, my signal with making a call to God is better when I'm here. But when I leave on Monday, I can't really connect. I don't really see Him. I don't experience Him. And God says, no, I'm everywhere. And He says He was afraid. And He says, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. In the Akkadian language, Babel meant gate of heaven. They built the tower. We're trying to earn our way and build ourselves a bridge all the way up to heaven. And Jacob says, no, this is the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob takes the stone pillow that he had placed under his head and he set it up as a pillar and he pours oil on it. Church, it's the very first time that anything is consecrated with oil to set it apart. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz, or we might say Luz. Luz is a word that means almond tree. I find this ironic because an almond tree is the first tree that blossoms in the spring, but it's the last one that produces fruit. Everybody follow me? It's the first tree that blossoms, but it's the last one to produce fruit. It's almost like it's a deceptive tree. Like, hey, look at this, it's time. And then nothing happens until way over here. That sounds like our man Jacob. Jacob, something's about to happen right here. I'm about to spring you into action, but you're not going to see the fruit of it for a very long time. And you're going to feel like you're being deceived, Jacob. You're going to feel like I'm not being faithful. You're going to feel like I'm not following through. Now, is he speaking to Jacob, or maybe he's speaking to a family? Maybe he's speaking to a spouse. Maybe he's speaking to a church. And so he says, this place that used to be called Luz, I'm going to call it Bethel. House, Beth, El, God. House of God. Daniel, God is my judge. Ezekiel, God strengthens. Samuel, heard by God. Gabriel, mighty one of God. Michael, who is like God. Raphael, God heals. Nathaniel, gift of God. And then Emmanuel, it's the one that most of us know. God is with us. Even in the desert, even in the dark place, even at night, even with a stone for your pillow, even when you're stranded in a certain place. He says, Jacob, you need to know that I'm there. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me, now wait a minute. That word if's confusing. I read different commentaries. 10 of them said he meant to say if. Some of them said, no, it's better translated since. Because he's now saying, oh, and he's declaring his allegiance. I don't know what to believe. Somebody smarter than me is going to have to help me figure this out. But I would lean towards him saying if. The deceiver, it makes sense that he would say, okay, God, if what you just told me is true, I don't know that I can believe it. Because I know what it's like to say something that you don't believe or that you don't intend. So God, if God's going to be with me, and if you will watch over me on this journey and that I'm taking, and if you'll give me food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely to my Father's household, then the Lord will be my God. If, then. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. If, God, if you do your part, and then here's a poster that for some reason I've used about 5 times in sermons over the past 2 years. This word, I'm not throwing this poster away because I just keep finding reasons to use the then poster. If, God, you do this, then I'll do this. But God, you got to promise me that you're not deceiving and lying because I do not like to be tricked. Oh, really, Jacob? Really? So, Jacob makes this vow to God. The challenge, church, is for any believer to turn your stone pillow into a stone pillar. Jacob wakes up from the dark sleep in the jury place in a certain place, and he says, this is no longer a pillow now. This was a hard place, but now it is going to be a holy place. And this holy place, once a hard place becomes a holy place, it opens you up to access to the high place. He realizes, God, you are making a bridge from the most desperate moment of my life. He's not just on a camping trip, y'all. He's running for his life. His brother is after him, and he is stranded in a certain place, and he feels like there is no hope that I'm going to make this out alive, until he has a dream where God says, I will not leave you until I've accomplished everything. Author Shane Warren says it this way: you're not defined by the hell you are going through, but by the heaven you are going to. I like to write that down and to remember that. And so that gets me to a brief timeout for a second about Joy's story. You know, we're going to camp. We're leaving. Some of you saw our video a couple weeks ago. And yet some of you say, well, I saw the video and that was fun, but what are you going to do? Let me just say a quick thank yous for a second. We made this video, and Ben Martin filmed the whole video. He did the voice of Pixel, the Lego minifig. This is Grumble the Troll, voiced by our very own Sean Frazier, who did a great job being the voice of the troll. This is Hayden Rogers. Hayden and his mom, Tiffany, were in the video. They did great. He's laying there on my pillow there that I slept on when I was a kid and did much like he did, pretended that I was flying rocket ships. This is another troll that was voiced by Megan Lamb. Megan designed all the artwork and all the graphics for our camp, so we want to give her a part in it. And so camp every year gets us to Lynchburg. How do we get to Lynchburg? Well, Woody has been donated and he's missing, and he's gone to Lynchburg. And we've got to find him before his batteries die. And so when he goes to Lynchburg, DJ Mike and then William Cavatayo. William, who's normally here at second service. I was hoping he was going to be here, but maybe he thought I was going to do this, so he didn't show up. William does not like to be called out. He doesn't like his name mentioned. He doesn't want to be in a video. He hates being in a video. But as a favor to me, I say, I want to remember the person that made this video possible. Would you just nod your head? And if you go back and watch the last 3 videos, there's one scene where William just nods as a favor to me. He and DJ Mike helped edit the video with the sound. These guys worked so hard on this video. And then we throw in a cameo for our favorite Joe Mays, who's an action figure here on the room. Then we go to Bill Sloan's house. This is his driveway. The back porch of this house is where I interviewed for this job 25 years ago. And so we pull out of his driveway, and somebody said, was that Bill Sloan's house in the video? Yeah. Was that his Winnebago? I said, just because we used his house, do you think we had to use his toys too? No. But this was Bill Sloan's house. We passed by Amy Sane, who does such a great job with our children's ministry, and we passed by Sean Frazier, who really wanted to get in a promo for Sing before it happened there in the video. Maybe you noticed that. And then Zach Jones, Mike's son, is pushing the Winnebago for this interior shot. And then we interrupt our dear brother Kelvin as he's out for a run, and the toys are trying to make it to save their friend because they have to make a quick pit stop at Jabroni's Pizza, which was the site of our camp last year, because they have to rescue Woody before his batteries die. We're going to spend all week in the book of Philippians, 1, 2, 3, 4 chapters, and the whole idea of the book of Philippians is that joy is the battery of the believer. Joy is not based on your circumstance. It's not based on what happens to you. That's happiness. You can be joyful in the midst of a dark night in a dry place with a stone for a pillow if you are stranded in a certain place. And so we got to go and rescue and save his batteries. Because third graders will get into this story, but 55-year-olds will understand what it means to have batteries that feel like they're weakening. And a church will know what it feels like to have batteries that feel like it is weakening. And so my wife came to me a couple of days ago and she said, my daily devotional pointed me to Psalm 107. And then the next day, another devotional pointed me to it. And then another day, something else pointed me to it. It's like Psalm 107. Like, I think we should be reading Psalm 107. I'm like, okay, fine. I love the Psalms. I'll read Psalm 107. And so I started reading Psalm 107. She goes, I think it needs to be in the sermon. Well, okay, how does it fit in the story that I'm telling? She goes, I don't know. Maybe you abandon the story you're telling and you tell Psalm 107. And then it fits. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. So far, so good. I'm loving this. This is great. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. Those he redeemed from the hand of the foe. Those he gathered from the lands, from the east and west, from north and south. Some wandered in desert wastelands. There we go. finding no way to a city where they could settle. Oh, they were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. There are people who are in the desert, in the dark, with a stone for a pillow, stranded in. They cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and He delivered them from their distress. There's the word. There it is. Then. There's the trouble, but then there's the then. What did they do? They cry out to the Lord in their trouble, and He delivered them from their distress. He led them by a straight way to a city where they could settle. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love and His wonderful deeds for mankind. For He satisfies the thirsty, and He fills the hungry with good things. Some sat in darkness, utter darkness. Oh, there we go. Prisoners suffering in chains because they rebelled against God's commands and despised the plans of the Most High. So He subjected them to bitter labor. They stumbled, and there was no one to help. There's the word, church. What is it? Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them from their distress. He brought them out of darkness, the utter darkness, and He broke away their chains. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. Oh, there we go. Some became fools through their rebellious ways, and they suffered affliction because of their iniquities. They loathed all food, and they drew near the gates of death. I'm not liking this verse so much anymore. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them from their distress. He sent out His word, and He healed them. He rescued them from the grave. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. There it is again. Some went out to sea in ships, and they were merchants on the mighty waters, and they saw the works of the Lord and His wonderful deeds in the deep. For He spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards, and they were at their wits' end. I'm not liking this so much because I feel like I'm living it. And maybe you do. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and He brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper, and the waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm. And He guided them to their desired heaven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love. He turned the rivers into a desert, flowing springs into thirsty ground, and fruitful land into a salt waste. Because of the wickedness of those who live there, He turned the desert into pools of water, and the parched ground into flowing springs. And there He brought the hungry to live. And they founded a city where they could settle. They sowed fields and planted vineyards that yielded a fruitful harvest. He blessed them, and their numbers grew greatly increased, and He did not let their herds diminish. Oh, yes, I'm back to loving this verse again. And then I turned the page. Then their numbers decreased, and they were humbled by oppression, calamity, and sorrow. He who pours contempt on nobles made them wander in trackless wastes. In a desert place, in a dark place, with a stone for a pillow in a certain place. But He lifted the needy out of their affliction, and He greatly increased their families and their flocks. The upright see and rejoice, but all the wicked shut their mouths. Let the one who is wise heed these things and ponder the loving deeds of the Lord. I closed my Bible, and I took several walks this week, and I pondered, God, why? God, where are you? Like, God, we're waiting, and God, you promised, and God, you said, but God, why? God, I feel like I've got a stone for a pillow, and I don't know what to do. And He says, but wait, you ain't seen nothing yet. And so, church, we go to the Gospel of John. John 1, 43 through 51. Now, guys, there's three guys right here. I need you guys to come up and help me tell this story real quick. Come on up, guys. They're not going to actually say anything, and they've not rehearsed this, as may be evident. Two of them helped me in first service, so they kind of know what's going on. So we're going to give Jack some grace because he's new to the story. We have Jesus right here, played by Cole. Stand right over there. Let's you guys come over here. We're going to have Ethan stand right here. He's going to represent Philip. And then Jack is going to be Nathaniel. Now, we're going to go to this story because it directly connects to our story and our text. Make sure, I'm going to go quick. If you're ready, say I'm ready. John 1:43. It's a story that is told, the calling of the disciple Nathaniel. It's been told in stained glass and in art. It's been told on flannel boards for our kids. It's a story that needs to be told, and we're going to tell it this morning. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, He said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from the town of Bethsaida, so Philip went and found Nathanael. And he told him, "We found the one Moses wrote about in the law and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael hears this and he says, "Nazareth, can anything good come from there?" He's incredulous. He can't believe that there's anything to this. "Come and see," said Philip. So the two of them begin to make their journey, and they get here on their way to Jesus, Nathanael standing behind Philip. And then when Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, "Here is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." You see the connection to our man Jacob? Jacob, anybody reading this would have known, he's probably referring to the Israelite who was the deceiver. In fact, his name was Jacob, which meant deceiver. He was literally born pulling somebody's leg, right? I don't think that's where that came from, but it'd be smart if it did. I found out that probably comes from Europe, when they pulled people's leg to distract them and steal from they pickpocket them. But Jacob was literally pulling someone's leg. But Jesus, can you imagine Jesus saying, "Here is somebody in whom there is nothing false"? "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Nathanael begins to come in front now. "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you." Now don't miss this, church, because when he says this does something to Nathanael, because Nathanael would know that when you are there at your fig tree, it is a moment, it is a place of peace and solitude. Your fig trees where you went to journal, a fig tree in Scripture often meant prosperity and peace. Everything is right and lush. There's no stone pillows there. And he says, "I saw you in your private place." And he realizes he knows all of his thoughts. Before you were even called, I saw you there. And so Nathanael declares, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." So he takes a step and says, "I want to know this guy." Look what Jesus says. Jesus says, "You believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." And then, church, look at this. "Very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." And he would have said, "Jacob's ladder." And he says, "It's no staircase, it's me. I'm the access to heaven. And you're going to be a part of helping me tell the world. And you're going to see greater things." So, church, you guys go back to position number one. I want you to try to remember where you went. And if I were to put a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 around the church, I want you to picture, where would you go and stand? You're a person who believes in following Jesus. Position 1. You're a friend who's telling other people about Jesus. You've been told about Jesus, but you're not sure that he is who he says he is. Church, all three of these people are present in this room and watching us online right now. All three are in this room. You've decided to investigate Jesus further. You've recently experienced God's grace and power proven in your life when he tells them, "I saw you under the fig tree." Like that did something to this guy, because he knows, 1 Kings said, that everyone would be under their own vine and under their own fig tree, a time of peace and a time of blessing. Everyone will sit under their own vine, Micah says, and under their own fig tree, and no one will make them afraid, for the Almighty has spoken. Church, look at Zechariah. "In that day, each of you will invite your neighbor to sit under your vine and fig tree, declares the Lord Almighty." And he says, that's where I want to be. And if you're going to take me there, then that's where I'm going to go. And then maybe you're in position number 6. You've decided to commit yourself to Jesus further. Just take a step up with him. Because now you've said, "My Lord and my God, you truly are the Son of God." Or you're in position number 7. You are about to experience greater things. So where are you? We can show you the whole list right here. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're one of those 7. Where are you? If I were to ask you what's the place you can't be, what would you say? Most of you would probably say, well, probably the guy over here who heard about Jesus, but he wasn't sure. Like, that's the place you don't want to be. No, church, that's a fine place to be. Everyone in the 11,000 churches that we planted, every person has stood in that position and said, "I'm not so sure about this." Some of you are sitting there right now, "I'm not so sure about this." The one place that you cannot be is simply a person who just believes in following Jesus, but never goes to the second position to tell somebody about him. The longer those bookmarks sit out there unclaimed, it lets us know that maybe, just maybe, we show up on Sunday morning to make a long-distance phone call to check in and say, God, how are things going? We're good here. I'm going to go back out in the world. There's no signal, and I'm not going to be able to, really connect with you or feel you or see you there, because when I go to the world, it's a dark place. It's dark, and it's desert, and I got a stone for a pillow, and I feel stranded in. But if you're simply a person who believes in following Jesus but never tells someone, that's the dangerous place to be. You three guys can have a seat. Thank you guys very much. And so Jesus says to Nathanael, you ain't seen nothing yet. You're going to see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. He says, I'm the ladder. That's me. So my guess is this morning there's somebody in the room who feels like God is nowhere. You've seen this before. You know there's two ways to read it. I'm not going to surprise anybody. But somebody says, I've looked and God's nowhere. Skid, you don't know what's going on in my home. You don't know what happened to my marriage. You don't know what my kids are saying about me. You don't know what happened to my job. You don't know what's happening in our church. God, you don't know what's happening with my neighbor. God is nowhere. I'm in the dark. I'm in the desert. I got a stone for a pillow, and He's nowhere to be found. Church, I'll remind you that faith is trusting what you see in the Word until you see it in the world. Sight is something that we see, but faith is trusting in what God sees, and it's so difficult. Sight, Jacob says, God, I'll believe it when I see it. No, I'll believe it until I see it, is what faith says. Faith doesn't mean everything will be okay, but it means that you will be okay. And then, church, we have the promise of Habakkuk. Though the fig tree should not blossom, there's our fig tree. Now, church, listen. It's hard for me to make it through this promise because it's so beautiful, and yet it is so hard for me presently to believe. Because I feel like I'm sleeping with a pillow that is a stone. But Habakkuk says, though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food, and the flock be cut off from the fold, and there will be no herd in the stalls. Let's pause, because somebody says, I'm out, I'm done, I can't do it. Whether you leave faith, or you leave church, or you leave North Boulevard, or you leave your small group, or you leave your spouse, or you leave your kids, you say, I'm done. Habakkuk says, though I'm not sitting under my fig tree, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength, and He makes my feet like the deer's, and He makes me tread on my high places, because He is Jacob's ladder. So let the one who is wise heed these things and ponder the loving deeds of the Lord. I feel what you're feeling, and it's hard for me to stand up here and tell you how to feel. And so we're just going to sing how I've been feeling. Karl Broberg is a Swede, and in the middle of a storm that he found fear in, but also great beauty, he ran home and got a candle and sat in his house and wrote a 9-stanza poem called O Stor Gud, which means, O Great God. It was put to music, and one of the opening lines of his song is, O mighty God, when I behold the wonder of nature's beauty wrought by words of thine, and how thou leadest all from realms up yonder, sustaining earthly life with love benign, with rapture filled, my soul thy name would laud, O mighty God, O mighty God. It doesn't exactly roll off the lips, does it? But they're beautiful words. They were words that were taken then by Manfred von Glenn, who said, I'm going to translate them into German. It became a beautiful German hymn that the Russian Ivan Prokhorov took and translated into Russian and became a beautiful Russian hymn. And then Stuart K. Hine saw those lyrics and said, those are beautiful. I'm going to translate them into English. And so Hine took these words, he reworked them to say, O Lord my God, when I, in awesome wonder, consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. It became the song that we know as How Great Thou Art, made famous in the 50s when it was launched in a Billy Graham crusade and made worldwide famous by, ironically, Elvis Presley, who brought these words of this Swedish poem into the minds of the whole world. And then there was a fourth verse. He had 3 verses, Hein did. And he met a man that was a refugee from war, and the man said, I've been separated from my wife. We got lost in the war. She has no idea that I'm even alive. I don't know if she's still alive. But he says, I heard you preach, and he says, and I want you to know that I hear your song, and when I get to heaven one day, when God calls me home, I'm going to get to go and say what my wife never heard me declare on earth, that I believe in God. When I left her, I was an atheist and condemning her for her faith, and this refugee said, but I believe in God, and she's going to get to hear me say it when I say it to God. And Stuart K. Hine wept and went down and wrote a 4th verse to his song. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy, there's the word again, shall fill my heart. Then I will bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. But Stuart K. Hine wrote a 5th verse that I'd never heard until a year ago. I was asked to speak at Winterfest on the theme, How Great is Our God. Our theme for Winterfest was Greater Than. And so I wanted to know, this song would be appropriate. What's the story behind the song? But I found a 5th verse that I'd never heard. I asked song people, you ever heard this? No. The song leader at Winterfest said, I've never heard it, but we're going to sing it. And he called me up one day, and with tears in his voice, he said, we just practiced that song. He says, how have we never heard this verse? I said, I don't know. We sang it at Winterfest for the first time. The first time I ever heard it sung was in an auditorium with about 3,000 people, and they all sang it. In Gatlinburg, about 7,000 people sing it together. And a 75-year-old lady comes up and she says, that has always been my favorite hymn of all time, and I've never heard that verse. And she says, I came here. She didn't use these words, but what she said was, when I came here, I was in a dark place in the desert with a rock for a pillow, stuck in. And she said, I love that song. So church, I can't really express what I'm feeling. And I don't like having the burden of responsibility to tell you how to feel. So I'm going to give that to Carl Broberg, to Stein actually, who wrote the 5th verse. Here's his 5th verse of How Great Thou Art. When burdens press and seem beyond endurance, bowed down with grief, to him I lift my face. And then in love, he brings me sweet assurance. My child, for thee sufficient is my grace. If you're a home or a spouse or a father or a mother, grandfather, grandmother, teenager, college student, and you're in a dark place in the middle of the desert with a stone for a pillow, I beg you to hang around long enough to see that pillow become a pillar. And then I beg you to know that the ladder that you can never make to heaven comes down to you. And Jesus says to Nathanael, you will see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man. I am that staircase. And my prayer is that you wake up, lift up the pillow, make it a pillar, and say, my God, how great thou art. Let's sing this verse together. Stand up, please.